I think when a standard $15 to $18 disc costs 25 and up, I think that's when you start to see an issue in disc price. Newest world champion. The guy was with Innova for years, switches over to MVP, first year with MVP, wins a world championship.
I think as far as players, I think it hurts because people want to try different stuff, or they think that they can improve or get better because of what they see different players throwing or what they see professionals throwing, instead of focusing on improving, just the basics and trying to get better themselves.
Welcome in everyone to the Chain Clankers Disc Golf Podcast. We have a fantastic episode for you guys today. Today we are going to be talking about the prices in disc golf. Have they gotten too outrageous with some of these new molds and discs coming out, and just prices we've never seen before in this market? So we're going to be debating that, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for the sport, as well as we've got a very interesting topic at the end of the episode today. We're going to be discussing what we would change in our games if we could go back to when we first started playing disc golf. Maybe you are a new disc golfer, or you want to change some things in your routine and getting better. We're going to discuss ways and things that we would have done differently had we been able to start all over again. Going to be a super fun show. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you do so. Let's bring in our co-host Horatio. Horatio, how are we doing today, man?
I'm good. We were talking about this topic kind of the other day, just about prices, just 'cause about that release coming up soon. So I'm excited just to hear your thoughts, and I know I have some stuff to say about it. But yeah, we were able to get our hands on a tilt because of one of our sponsors, Gripper and Ripper. Go check them out on Instagram for sure. They are going to have some in stock on release day on the 27th. So if you can go and support them, definitely. You'll get a discount, for using our code. What is our code, Louis?
It is CC10. That's gnrdiscgolf.com. Use promo code CC10. Save yourself 10% at checkout. They've got some really cool things over there. Like, they've got a ton of different molds and different discs. So I would definitely check it out. There's probably something for everyone over there. Super, super cool guy. And if the number one way to support this show is to support our sponsors as well. So we definitely appreciate anyone going over there and using our promo code. And they were clutch enough to send us a meta tilt, and we've got our video dropping tomorrow on Tuesday where we test out the old tilt versus the new tilt, and we play a fun little 9-hole challenge. It was so much fun right off the rip without giving too much away from it. Horatio, any big differences between the two discs that stood out in your mind?
The grip, like the plastic. I know the original is more of like a DX harder plastic, and this new one I think is that Italian fancy shimmery stuff. It was very slippery right off the bat. I don't think I like that kind of plastic, but besides that, I feel like they flew pretty similar. What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly like that plastic more. It feels grippier to me. It feels like I can hold on to it a little easier. I feel as though that kind of stiffer plastic, more base plastic-ish feel just feels like it can kind of slip out a little bit more. I love the tilt. I've been a big tilt supporter. I think it's a great disc. I think it's something that belongs in everyone's bag, and I think it is such a good utility disc and can get you out of trouble where other discs cannot do so. And we threw it a couple of times in the field just for a couple of reels, and the discs went the exact same distance, only the meta tilt went maybe 10, 15 feet more left.
Yeah, it definitely had more fade to it, I would say. And it is a cool disc. I don't know if people necessarily like need to carry it, or like, I think it's more of a hype disc, like a marketing campaign kind of disc, because it definitely can do some cool stuff, but nothing that you can't get out of like throwing another disc a specific way.
Ooh, I completely disagree.
Just like thinking like in shots where you feel like you have that crazy hyzer and you something to dump down. In those scenarios, like, I don't carry a tilt. I have one, but I don't throw it. In those scenarios where I've seen you go to yours or throw yours, I just pull out my Raptor and like throw it on a crazy hyzer line, and it does the same thing.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's more controllable, more trustworthy, and I just think that you're getting a more consistent shot and you don't have to do something crazy that you normally don't do with another disc. I think it's a get out of jail kind of disc. Like, it's one of those where a great example I have is I was stuck literally in the base of a big old pine tree. Nothing I could do, right? And the only window I had was to throw the disc pretty much straight up and pray. And with the tilt, I was able to do so because I know it's going to pretty much go straight up and straight back down, and it's going to roll a little bit forward. That's exactly what it did. It was pretty much parked. I mean, 15 feet out, coming out of a tree, I'll call that pretty much parked. Where I feel as though if I would have went to any other disc in my bag, it would have gone too far for the kind of shot I was wanting, or I would have seen myself go too far left. So I really like the tilt. I think it's such a good utility disc. We're going to talk about the price range of the tilt here in a second, and maybe why it's not worth it when it comes to price. But I do like the disc. I like the new plastic. I really liked it. Definitely something that's going to be a staple in my bag. But along with that, I wanted to also, just kind of give ourselves a pat on the back. This is our 52nd episode. Next episode we will have been doing this for 1 year. That's crazy that we've been doing this podcast for 1 year. Congratulations to you, Horatio, for sticking around with me, all my crazy ideas for a year. We've got tons more content planned and more years hopefully to come as well. And something exciting that we have to drop is we are planning, as my dog is losing it over here. She's excited for us. Hopefully you can't hear the squeaking too badly in the background. If you can, I do apologize. But we are planning to drop merch finally. We've had tons of people asking us to do so. We are going to be doing it. August 3rd is the anniversary date of the first Chain Clankers episode. On that date, we are going to be dropping merch. More details to come. Make sure you stay tuned for it. We'll have more details in the episode the day prior to the merch actually going live, so definitely stay tuned for that. I think that at this point, kind of covered all of our bases. We've got the Meta Tilt video coming out here on Tuesday. We've got a couple other fun disc battles coming out. We're going to be doing the Maestro versus the Tactic and the Buzz versus the Axiom Crave. Those are going to be pretty fun. They're going to be coming out here in the next week or so. And yeah, that's kind of all the catching up I have to do before we get into our main topics. Horatio, do you have anything else before we kind of dive into disc prices?
No, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'll let you go ahead and start with what you've reportedly heard the tilt price being. I'm not sure what it is. I have not seen anything official, but it is my understanding that someone has told you how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, I went to one of the stores, and I mean, they had it with the sticker, and they were nice enough to let me check it out, and they had it already stickered, ready to go to be sold. And I mean, I think similar to like vehicles that have the MSRP, there's prices that retailers are told what they are allowed to charge brand new. I don't know if some retailers charge more or less, but the tilt was $37, $38. I thought I took a picture of it, but maybe not. But it was pretty much $40. I mean, after taxes, it's going to be a $40 disc. I love some of the best discs in my bag, and some of the best discs that I have owned came out of the used tins at Play It Again or another disc golf retailer. And you can pick those up from anywhere from $4 to like $10 for a super nice, depending what you get. Sometimes there's some really cool stuff in there. And yeah, they're not brand new or whatever, but they're already beaten in. And if you lose a lot of discs, you know that like there's not really any reason to pay a lot for discs that you're just going to throw. They're going to get beat up and dirty and possibly lost. So I love being able to pay the least amount of money as possible for discs that are going to serve the same purpose. So when I see a disc that's going to be pretty much $40, if I'm looking at used disc prices, that's 4 discs that I could get. And granted, yeah, it's not this hype disc, it's pretty much, I don't know who said it, but Discmania is kind of like the Supreme of disc golf. You can go on Supreme website and you can order like stupid stuff, and it's just expensive just because it has the Supreme logo on it. And it's cool, but I don't know if it's necessary. And it's one of those things where, you don't have to buy it. If you have a problem with it, okay, don't buy it. Disc golf is as expensive or as cheap as you want to make it. You don't need an expensive grip bag. You don't need expensive signature discs. You can literally just take an old backpack from when you were in middle school, throw some discs in there from Walmart or from Play It Again from the used, and you can probably play as good, and depending on how good you are, even sometimes better than some of those guys like myself carrying around a really nice bag with some good discs. There's some guys that go out there with, just a crappy bag and the same discs they've had for years, and they play better than a lot of the people out there with all the fancy gear. So I think it's for a certain kind of people that these discs are put out. And I think I've said it before, I think it's like a hype disc. If people are going crazy about this tilt, I think they know it's not, a super practical disc for everyone, but it gets everyone talking about Discmania. It gets people talking about Simon Lizotte. And if you can't get it, you want to pick up something else. So you're like, well, I couldn't get the tilt, so I'm going to pick up the mutant, or I'm going to pick up the splice, or I'm going to pick up something else that they're releasing. And it's kind of just to bring your attention towards their company as opposed to someone else. And I think that's what a lot of these signature discs are. It's just to see whose attention they can grab. Right now, I feel like we live in a time where it's like people have a short attention span. And if you can get people's attention for a little bit and get them to swipe and buy something, then mission successful is what I think.
I think you bring up some good points. I'll start my side of the argument with I will absolutely be buying a mutant when it comes out, because I think that's another disc that is like a tilt, but maybe you can get more distance out of it, more control out of it, whatever. It's the mid-range version of a tilt. Same thing as a Justice, whatever. It's something I want in my bag.
I thought you were going to stop buying discs.
After the mutant, I'm done, I swear. Isn't that how it always goes? I mean, you always tell yourself, I'm done buying discs, and then something comes out, and by golly, you got to buy another one.
You don't, though.
Yeah, you really don't. I have a gator. I don't need a mutant, but I want a mutant.
That's what we're talking about here, folks.
Exactly. It's a whole lot of need versus wants. I mean, we're going to take you back to your high school economics class, I guess, because it's the truth. It's need versus want. Do you really need a mutant? Do you really need a tilt? I mean, how often do you throw a tilt in a round? I mean, you should be asking me that because I'm the one who throws it. The answer to that question is maybe 3 times a round. Okay, that's not that bad. At least it's not 0 times around, but also sometimes it is 0 times around. Sometimes it's 6 times around, but it's at least something that gets used in my bag. I think when you're just going out and buying a bunch of discs that are never going to see the light of day in your bag. And I understand testing them out and things like that, but just buying discs to buy discs is not necessarily the correct move. And if we want to tie back to some further episodes we've done where we talk about minimizing your bag, then obviously, the more discs you bring into it, then, the worse your bag is going to be. Pretty much what I'm trying to say here is I think that the tilt is overpriced. But I think the way that Discmania is dropping it is so smart that it's going to make people pay for it. Because I know Gripper and Ripper, they've got 20 tilts. A couple of other pages I follow, I know one of them has 27 tilts. Another one has 30 tilts. I mean, how many does our Play It Again have? You said what, like 35 maybe?
15, 20 maybe. Like, it's going to sell out. There's no question about it. It's going to be sold out in that day, like everywhere.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think they're dropping a limited amount of these, as you're calling them, hype discs to ensure that they sell for whatever price they put on them. Like, if each place selling them has 20 of them, they're going to sell out. It's just the numbers game tells you it's going to sell out. I think the issue is if then you see like a DD3, its price jump from, let's say, what do they go for? Like $18 or something like that right now. So the issue then becomes if a DD3 goes from being $18 to, well, now all of a sudden it's $22. Now it's $25. Like, when we see our regular discs jump up like that, I think that's when we see a problem. And I think the difference between a signature series disc and like something like the tilt, because I don't know of another disc that even signature series that is as expensive as the Tilt. I literally think the Tilt is the most expensive disc out there. And
Brand new, yeah.
yeah, brand new, sorry. But I think it's because it does something unlike any other disc. Like if you go and buy a Raider signature series and you go and buy a Force signature series and you go and buy a Destroyer signature series, like all of those discs pretty much do the same thing. You're just picking who you want to support. Where the Tilt does something where you can't go out and buy a fairway driver that does what the Tilt does. I mean, you can pick up a Raptor, you can pick up an Onyx, you can pick up a Firebird, but like none of them are going to do what a Tilt does. And I just think that that's why its price is just so high, and people are going to buy it. They're going to pay for it. They're going to keep paying for it. And I think it's okay that these one-off situations where you see a higher price disc, you're going to see those who really want it and are going to incorporate it into their game. They're going to try to get it. Those who don't probably aren't going to buy it. And I think it comes down to once we see our regular discs start to move up in price, I think that's an issue. I think when a standard $15 to $18 disc costs 25 and up, I think that's when you start to see an issue in disc price.
I think we definitely saw that this year, but I mean, that was kind of like demand, you know? But I know like the Garrett Girthy Halo Wraiths and like the Calvin Heimberg Destroyers, those were $30, like upwards of $30. And because I wanted to get one, I like Calvin Heimberg is one of my favorite players, but I just do not like paying that much for discs. I can get an F2 stamp and it's gonna do almost the same thing. Like the logo is cool and stuff, and you support a player, but I almost think they kind of hurt themselves by making them so expensive. You know, make the signature disc a couple dollars more than the original, than the regular one, and you'll have more people buying them, and then you have your players selling more discs as opposed to making them $30. Because if I'm going to the store and I want to replace my Destroyer or my Wraith, and I see a Calvin Heimberg Destroyer there, and it's $30, and right beside it is just the exact same disc, except it's not the signature one Destroyer, and it's $23. I'm gonna get the one that's $23. I don't see that big of a reason to pay that extra for the same disc, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I definitely appreciate the fact that Innova puts out so many F2/X stamp discs because you can literally go out, folks, and buy a Destroyer for like $8. And
Yeah.
Horatio, you're right. It does the exact same thing that a $30 Destroyer does. The only difference is the artwork. Do you like looking at that artwork? Are you cool with that artwork? Maybe you then go use the money that you didn't spend on the disc and you can get it dyed, or you can do something fun with the disc. You know, that's something that maybe more people are going to be attracted to in the future. And I think a big part of it, at least for me, when I'm buying a disc, if there's two discs that do the same thing and one's artwork is cooler than another, the artwork's going to be the difference and the tiebreaker, and I'm going to go with the artwork. And I think you open up a really interesting point about the first off, I guess the Halo stuff. You got me a Halo Wraith for Christmas. Other than that, I haven't even thought about buying a Halo anything because they're all over $30. I'm not gonna pay $30 for a Halo disc when I can just buy something similar to it from a different manufacturer for like $10 cheaper. So I think when you see disc prices like that, I'm not paying the super expensive version of a disc when I can get something that does something damn near identical to it for $10 cheaper. That's also me not saying every single disc I buy, I'm going to the used bin at Play It Again. Like you said, there's been plenty of good stuff found from the used bin at Play It Again. I personally have not been able to find anything I'm looking for every time I've gone, but you found plenty of stuff there. Anyone can probably find something that they want from the U section or the F2 section or the X out section. You just got to look for it. But I guess it all comes back to the fact of, for me, I think the supply and demand of disc golf is just so uncertain and unclear right now that we as a consumer do not know what to expect, if that makes sense. So what I guess I'm trying to say is that, like, I feel like the demand is so high that there's a good percentage of people that will pay whatever the price is for a disc. A big Z Luna, the tour series for Macbeth, is going for like $26. Are you going to
Oh,
pay $26 for a Luna? I'm not.
no, when I started out at the very beginning, I picked up a Luna, and that was like my first, and I really loved that disc. I liked the feeling, I liked everything about it, and would go across the street to the park in front of my house and practice, and I lost it in a tree, and I wanted to replace it, but I went to the store, and they were $26, and I just didn't want to pay that much for a putter again after losing that one. I was like, wow, I just bought this one. It was a few weeks old and $26 gone. Um, that's a lot of money. I don't care, what you do or who you are or whatever, like just for a hobby, for something that you use in the game, $26 is a lot. And I think that's the difference between disc golf and a lot of sports. You can't really, before we started this, I was trying to think of another sport where we could compare it to, where the items or what you use in the sport is also like merchandise. Basketball, I mean, you can buy nicer basketballs, but pretty much they're all pretty much the same.
I mean, maybe basketball shoes.
Yeah, you know, definitely. And same with soccer, like you'll see people with like just regular cleats or people that have really nice cleats, like the signature line of the professional players. But really in those situations, like you only see like the really, really good players wearing those signature soccer cleats. And if you're like a rookie or a noob and you're wearing those, like you're going to get made fun of and you're going to look like a clown because like everyone knows that those are $300 soccer cleats and you are not good enough to be wearing those soccer cleats. So most people don't. But when you get to a certain level and like you think you're good and there's that I guess show like to show off in the sport, you get those expensive cleats and people know you're good kind of by the kind of cleats you have. But in disc golf, anybody can buy, the $35 signature discs, even if you've only been playing for 5-6 months. And I guess you still kind of look kind of goofy because it's like you can barely throw 260 feet. And some people might get mad about this, but oh well, like you can only throw 260, 270 feet, but you have a signature wraith or anything Discmania, stuff that's super expensive in your bag, and that's what you're throwing, even though you can't throw anything that fast. But because it doesn't matter. It's like merchandise. It's stuff that is cool. It's like who can have the coolest bag. It's not really like to be the better player. It's like who can have the cooler bag. I mean, we see the videos all the time from like what's in my bag by the professional players. And part of it, yeah, is to them show you what they're throwing. But 70% of people can't throw the way that those guys throw. So it doesn't matter that they're showing us what it's in their bag. They do those videos so you go out and buy what they're throwing. That's the main reason why they do that. Paul Macbeth is throwing this. Well, I need it because he throws it. And so that's why you see all these like builds of bags. It's kind of like who has the coolest, like, let me see your setup. Kind of, I guess, like in the car world, like, all right, let me pop the hood. Let me see what's under the hood, like what you've done to it. And sometimes those guys like don't necessarily race them or they don't do it to go fast. It's all for show. And I feel like that's kind of similar in disc golf. It's like, oh, I have this and this in my bag. And I'm sure you've met the people you've played around with or somewhere, and they're like, oh yeah, check out this disc. Oh, you think that's cool? Like, oh, I have this in my bag, and kind of just like showing off their discs. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think you bring up some pretty like good points and something that I'm going to say right now. And if you're mad, like be mad. Like we are not going to be groupthink disc golf. Like we are always going to try to bring in new ideas, explore new topics, think about things differently than how they're being thought about now. And I think you bring up a pretty good point. Like there are definitely people who build their bags just to show off, just to be like, yeah, bro, I got the Calvin Heimberg Tour Series. I got the Ricky Wysocki Tour Series. I got the Paul Macbeth Tour Series. And that's cool. If you want to support those guys and that's how you want to spend your money, that is fine. I don't personally have a problem with that. I just don't think that everyone has to do that. And I don't think that I guess what I'm trying to say is also I think sometimes it gets too expensive for me to want to support someone like that. Like a great example is, let's say I really want to support Ezra Aderhold, right? And I want to buy one of his Tour Series nukes. But if it's $8-10 more expensive than a regular nuke, I find it pretty hard for my wallet to sacrifice the $8-10 for a disc that's going to do the same thing. And then half the time I throw it, I'm either A, going to not want to throw it in general, or B, I'm going to be scared to lose it. So I'm not ever going to really trust myself with throwing it. Like when you get these super nice discs, you don't throw them in the situation that you probably should be throwing them all the time. Like you're going to do a safe shot with them. You're going to be hesitant with them. You're not going to rip them like you would rip an F2 disc that cost you $8. And that's just facts. I challenge you to take an F2 Wraith and a Garrett Girthy Halo Wraith and throw them over 315 feet worth of water. And if it goes in the water, you're not getting it back. Which one are you going to be more stressed out about? I would be more stressed out, and I'm not even pulling out my Tour Series Wraith because I don't want to lose it. So now you have discs in your bag, and I get it. Everyone has discs in their bag. I have discs in my bag right now, my Pink Enigma. If that sucker went in the water, I would be devastated, right? But like, I just don't think it's smart to be paying exuberant prices for discs that you're never going to throw with full 110% confidence. And I really think it comes down to supply and demand. Again, man, when the supply is low, people are going to pay whatever they want. I'm really interested to see what happens with disc prices here in the next couple of years, because I think one or two things are going to happen. Either one, disc prices are going to continue to climb with everything else, and you're going to see a regular, just standard Star Wraith be $22-25, or you're going to see them hold steady and people are going to be buying less of those super expensive discs. Like, for example, at our local plate again, I'm pretty sure there was a like Royal Rage 2 there that's, I want to say, started out at like 32, 33
Yeah, it was
bucks,
above
something like
$30.
that.
Yeah.
And the last time you went, it was down to what, like 26, 27?
Yeah, it was like $26.
And so maybe we see more of that, and we see retailers having to lower their prices, which
Well, I
maybe
think,
isn't the worst thing in the world, but like,
yeah, I think that one just, it happened to be like a dud. It didn't do like they thought they did, or they put out too many.
yeah. And I guess, and see, that's such an interesting point is you can put out, each retailer only gets 20 tilts and they're $40, but if you give each retailer 400 tilts and they're $40, do they still sell the same? I think the answer is no, absolutely not. And the thing about the Royal Rage 2, it's just an instinct. You can go buy a stock instinct for $12 to $18, where that one's going to cost you $32, $33. Like, it's almost double the price. And do you really want to get it dirty? Do you really want to chip it? Do you really want to throw it? If you're buying it as a collector's item, that's cool. But like, if you're buying it to put it in your bag, I think there's a massive difference between just buying a stocked instinct. And also, you don't even have to buy that disc because you can go out and buy another disc that's the exact same. And I think it kind of brings up what Juliana Corver said on our last episode about how, like, back in the day, you knew what every disc was and whatever, who made every disc, what every single disc did, where nowadays that knowledge gap is so big because there's so many discs. It's impossible to know what every disc does, but there's a disc for everything, and you don't have to pay super high prices. You can go to something else.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. But, like I said before, it's one of those things where they're that expensive, but you don't have to pay that much. Like, there's no one forcing you to go out and buy these discs. Like, it's personal choice, and you're not going to be able to do that much. There's some utility to the tilt, but there's really, not much that the tilt is going to offer you. I don't think it's going to offer you $40 worth of space in your bag. And
I
so,
think the tilt, sorry to cut you off, but I think the tilt is one of the only discs out on the market that has the capability to do so, because it's so unlike anything else, right? If it was a Raptor that was $40, just go buy a Firebird.
Yeah, but like, so why, I've seen Eagle McMahon throw it one time. I've seen Casey throw it once, and I don't think I've ever seen Simon Lizotte throw it on actual, like on a pro like event. They don't carry it. They don't throw it. They might carry it just for like a scramble moment, but I probably would bet that they don't carry it most of the time because it's not a practical disc. And when like the signature disc of the player isn't even throwing it, then like what does that tell you? I feel like a signature disc like Garrett Gurthie, he throws the Wraith all the time. Uh, Nate Sexton, the Firebird, that is his favorite disc. He has said that that's one of the discs that made his career. Simon Lizotte Till, like it's like a fun project for him that he wanted to do because it was crazy. But if it was that great of a disc, you would see more players carry it and throw it, and you don't.
Yeah, I think it's hard for more players to carry it and throw it just because of the limited supply. I mean, you had to pay $100 initially to get it the first time because you had to buy the mystery box, which in and of itself is crazy that you had to spend $100 on a mystery box just to get
But I
one
mean,
disc you really wanted.
the pro players. I mean, they could get as many as they want if they really wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, probably. We don't know for sure, but yeah, probably. I think that all those guys, I would bet good money that every single Discmania guy has one in their bag. They might not always pull it out, but I think they all have it in their bag.
Nah, that thing is bulky and takes a lot of space, and I guarantee you they don't carry that thing
I
unless it's a
I
certain course. And they
I see the
practice.
value in it. I really do. I see the utilityness in it, and I see like there are some shots where it's perfect. I mean, literally go watch our YouTube video we're gonna put out. And we played an entire course with it, and you and I, with the two videos that are gonna come out after it, we tried it with other discs, and we scored better with the tilt than we did with other discs.
Yeah,
I think the
we
tilt has some value for sure.
we might have to do a separate video where it's like my bag versus the tilt,
Yeah,
and it's like
I'll take you on that. I'll take the tilt.
yeah, and pretty much because I mean wherever you throw the tilt, where like it's the actual like straight up and down shot, like I just throw a thumber and it'll do the same thing.
The thumber hurts my shoulder too much.
You have to power the heck out of a tilt to get it to.
Yeah, but that's easier than throwing overhand for me. As
Yeah.
someone who has messed up their shoulder in the past, that is so much easier to throw a tilt on full power, regular power, whatever it is, than to attempt a thumber that I don't normally attempt.
Yeah, or a grenade. I mean, you can pretty much get the
Yeah.
same thing out of a grenade.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a great discussion on disc prices. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below. What are your just overall thoughts on disc prices? Let us know on Instagram, Twitter at Chain Clankers. I'd be really interested to hear your opinions. Leave the like rating on the video if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far. Or if you think that I'm crazy and have a terrible take like some people out there do, then let me know. Let me know how bad my takes are. I definitely appreciate getting those and just having discussions with people and hearing what your guys' thoughts are, regardless of if you agree with us or not. Let's go ahead and transition to things that we would do if we could start over in disc golf today. If we take the clock all the way back to when we first started, the podcast is a year old, dang near. Horatio, what is, I guess, a couple of things or maybe one really big thing that you would have done differently if you could start over?
I was thinking about this a lot, and for the most part, not a whole lot. Once I started playing it and I got really hooked on the sport, I was playing like 5 to 6 times a week, sometimes twice a day. And that was, full on practice and playing. I would say the one major thing that I've started to do recently, and everyone talks about it, but not everybody, actually does it, is I would have stuck to more putters and mids early on when I was starting out, and especially understable stuff. Because after I started playing so much, I started to gain distance, but I was throwing really overstable, so it was building really bad habits in my form. And then so when I would try to throw understable stuff or try to throw straight shots, I would have a really hard time because I was so used to the way I had learned to throw I was just cranking everything over, turning it over too much. And so if I could go back to the beginning, I would definitely stick to more putters and neutral mids and just learn to throw those. Because now I can throw my Jawbreaker Zone or my Mako 3. I can throw that 300 plus now because I've improved my form and I've been able to get a much better timing and mechanics. But if I would have done that from the beginning and only stuck to those kind of discs, right now I would be throwing way farther. I think so.
Yeah, I think going back, a couple of things that I would have done differently is I would have putted so much more. I really think that putting is so crucial for a beginner and for an amateur in general. Like, a good example, I guess I have is if Horatio and I both tee off and you, Horatio, throw it 100 feet further than I do, but you miss your birdie putt, and then I do an upshot and I'm under the basket and I tap in a par, and then you tap in a par, what's the score?
Even.
Even, right? We
Yeah.
both got a par. What's the difference between you throwing 100 feet further than me? Nothing in this scenario. We both got a par because you were unable to then secure the birdie putt. Roles reversed. If I outdrive you by 50 feet and then I mess up my upshot, we're both still getting pars. Like, the thing that I think separates players is, can you make putts? Because there is nothing worse than a 30-footer that you have to make to save your par. And if you can step up to the green and just have a good mindset and know that you can make this putt, you're not stressed out. And then it opens up your game backwards. Like, I really think it's also so much easier to do. I mean, I guess maybe not. I was going to say it's so much easier to do putting practice than it is field work, but field work, you just have to find an open field. Putting practice at least requires a basket. But if you're going to the course, just stick around at the end and just do some extra putting. There you go. There's your extra putting. I think the physical act of putting versus doing like driving field work, putting is easier because you're not walking as much. You can really focus in on your reps. You can get more reps in because you're not having to, go and pick up your discs and then come back and throw again. So I think putting for me is something that I really would have focused on more. And I would have just focused on having a good mindset and ensuring that the putts I'm putting up matter. I wouldn't take 10 putters with me and just rapid fire them off. They don't do anything for you. I've lately found that taking literally one putter and putting up 10 good quality round like putts a day is better than putting up 100 non-serious putts a day. And so that's something that I definitely would have gone back and done, because even playing in tournaments, it just goes back to the fact that if you can't putt, you're not going to score well. That's when your birdies turn into bogeys. That's when your pars turn into double bogeys. That's when whatever. So definitely putting is something that I would have focused in more on. And then I think another thing that I would have really focused in on more is understanding my bag and not theme of the episode, not buying as many discs. Like, I was somebody who wanted to try every single disc. Oh, this disc is different than this disc because it's a different manufacturer. You were someone, in my opinion, who picked up a lot quicker that, hey, like a Raider, a Destroyer, a Zeus, they're all the same thing. Like, it's just, what plastic do you want in your hand? Where I was someone who I really wanted to try each and every single one, try it for myself. And that's okay to try different discs. But I think that I got too many discs that either I didn't give a long enough chance to even stay in my bag, and so they've just been put on the shelf and I've never thought about them again, or B, I was just buying discs that were the same thing that I was already throwing, and I was thinking because it was different, it was going to unlock something new in my game. The only thing that's going to unlock something new in your game is yourself and the work you put in on the course.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think if we did our in the bag that, if we did an updated one, compared to the one we did about a year ago, I feel like they would be very, very different. Yours probably more so than mine, just because of what you were just talking about. A lot of the stuff that was in my bag back then, I would say is pretty much still in my bag also. Um, but that's just kind of the way I am, and just simplifying things. And if you're someone that's struggling with, improving your distance, or you want to improve your game overall, simplify as many things as you can. You know, if you don't want to worry about what's in your bag or worry about the style of putting or whatever, simplify as much as you can. If you can just stick to the discs you have, and then you can focus on your form, that's easier than worrying about what's in your bag, and on top of that worrying about your form, and on top of that worrying about different lines or shots to be able to throw. If you like, okay, this is what my bag is and this is what I'm going to learn and improve with, that makes it easier going forward. One question I would say is, would you have changed your putter as many times as you did? And just kind of before you go into that, I would say definitely, find something that works for you and is comfortable for you. But, I think kind of I got to a point where, so I threw the Luna, and then after that I threw the AVR, and someone told me like, hey, that's really overstable. One tip of advice I'm going to give to you is find a putter that's neutral, and that's going to help you out a ton. And we did some tournament, and they gave me a Warden, and that was a really neutral disc. And I was like, okay, this feels good. It's a putter. Great. And I just stuck with that, because there's so many putters and so many different styles and different brands. And I was like, this is a putter. This feels fine. I'm just going to stick to this. And now I just have to figure out my putting. As opposed, I think how many times did you change your putter, and kind of why did you do that, and talk about if you would do that again?
So I started out with just regular AVRs. That's what came in the little like Innova starter packs. So I think that's probably like a DX AVR, whatever. I'm pretty sure that's the right plastic for it. So I started out with that, and then over the course of getting serious with it the first time, not this time, I think I picked up two more. So really going into like really getting back into disc golf, I had three of those putters. So that's kind of what I mainly used. And then after that, I picked up a crown from a trilogy challenge, which initially I absolutely hated. And if you've been a listener of this podcast for quite some time, you know that I've been a big fan of the crown, and the crown has been a staple in my bag. And lately I only use it for throwing. I don't use it for putting anymore. I use a PA3 for putting now, and I just love the PA3. The PA3 fits so much better in my hand, and I think that there's other putters like Jawbreaker Roach, Latitude 64 Dagger, a Maiden, Judge, Warden. Trying to think of any others that I've maybe tried. A P2 at one point, probably. Like I've tried a bunch of different putters, and I feel as though a mistake that I would make is anytime I was unable to deliver on putts, I wasn't making what I wanted, I would just try to change my putter instead of just get better at putting. I would be like, yup, the crown's not it anymore, boys. I got to go find something else. Let's go to the Luna. And then it wouldn't be working. I'd be like, all right, time to go to the Judge. Let's go try that out for a little bit. And so I think I panic bought putters to a degree of not actually improving my putting. I just thought it was improving my putting because it wasn't what I was throwing, and now I was making it with this disc. It's all up here. It's all mental. It's all yourself. You are missing the putt because you are missing the putt, not because the putter is missing the putt. And that took me so long to learn. And once I've learned that and accepted that and decided that, you know what, this is the putter I like the most in my hand, I'm going to get a couple more of those so I can really work on that. And then it got to the point of, the crown was, it was my disc. Like if I had a signature series disc, it would have been the crown. And now I just use the crown for up shots and off the tee. I don't putt with it anymore because I use the PA3 because I found something that fits better in my hand. So what I'll say is don't panic buy putters or any other disc, for example, because you're not making putts. Just fix your putt and work on your putt, but don't be afraid to try something else out in your hand. If you pick up something else, you're like, wow, that really feels good in my hand. I kind of like that, it might look a little dorky, but maybe, kind of practice going through your routine or whatever in the store and really think to yourself, is this worth trying over what I have now? I really wish disc golf stores had a little putting green that you could go to and try out the putters, or even like a little net set up and you could throw a couple of the drivers or whatever. I think that would be so sick, and it would help so many people make better decisions when buying discs. But like if that was an option, man, I would have half as many putters as I have right now.
Yeah, and I think that is a lot to do with what we talked about in the prices and stuff. And just as far as disc golf in general, like they're not selling you tools, I guess, or like what you need to improve. They're selling you merchandise. They're selling you, and that's the way that companies stay alive, is putting something new out, putting different plastics. Like, does there need to be 4 different kind of plastics for one disc? No. But it's like, ooh, I've tried the Destroyer and the basic plastic or whatever it is, or the Champion plastic, but I haven't tried it in the G-Star, or I haven't tried it in the other plastic. And so I think that's kind of how they get you to buy more. And I mean, that's their that's how they're going to make money, and that's how their motive is. But I think as far as players, I think it hurts because people want to try different stuff, or they think that they can improve or get better because of what they see different players throwing or what they see professionals throwing, instead of focusing on improving, just the basics and trying to get better themselves. Because I mean, it's not about what's in your bag. Literally, I feel like you could have all DX plastic in your bag, and you could be as good as someone else that, like we talked about, someone that has all super nice discs. It's about how good your game is, how smart you are on the field, and how much practice you're going to put into the game. I mean, look at Paul Macbeth or any other pros. They have contracts and they compete to win and to be world champions. But Paul Macbeth did that with Innova, and he won. And he went and got a new contract, and now he's Discraft. All of those discs are gone. He now has to go to 100% new discs, relearn those. And what does he do? He is still a world champion. He is still competing at the top, because the discs didn't matter. What mattered is the level of player that he is and how much work he was able to put in to learning his bag and to be able to execute. You could give Paul Macbeth the cheapest discs on the market, and he's still going to be able to beat 80% of the people. If you put him against put him on Pro Tour with some of the cheapest discs, he is going to have a harder time, but he's still going to be able to beat almost anyone else carrying some of the best plastic on the market, because the discs don't matter as much as your ability to know what to do with them.
Yeah, same thing. James Conrad,
Yeah.
your newest world champion. The guy was with Innova for years, switches over to MVP, first year with MVP, wins a world championship. It can be done. And to close the episode out, Horatio, you're 110% right. It's not what's in your bag. It's not the plastic in your hand. It's you, the player. It is what you do with the plastic. It is the work you're putting in. It's your form. You can have the best form in the world and a basic plastic, and you're going to perform better than the best plastic in bad form. At the end of the day, it comes down to the player. Work on your form, work on understanding your discs, and that's how you'll see your game get better. That's how you'll see your score drop. And if you want to do so, we've got tons of podcasts. We've got 51 other podcasts you can go check out that are going to help you with some of these things. We've got episodes with Ezra Aderhold and Haley King about form and distance. We've got episodes with Scott Stokely about putting. We've got episode with Logan Harpool about the mental game at disc golf. Like, we've got you covered. Tristan Tanner and forehand approaches. Like, we've got you covered. Go check out some other episodes. If you want to continue to improve your game, make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave a like rating if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for an incredible year. We really do appreciate your support. We've only continued to grow, and we want to continue to grow. grow, to reach as many players in disc golf and help as many people as we can. That is our mission, to grow the sport and to help those within the sport. Like I mentioned earlier, we will have merch dropping on August 3rd. Use our promo code CC10 at gnrdiscgolf.com. The best way to support our shows, to support our sponsors, and to support us with any merch you buy. We'd love to see any pictures of you guys absolutely killing it with that stuff on.
I was going to say, and to celebrate that 1 year, that famous tilt, if me or Louis are not successful in obtaining another tilt, we will be giving that one away. That is, we have to get another one. Otherwise, because not one of us can. I better
hope we don't get one, because I do not want to give it away.
But if we do, we're able to get another one. We've already talked, celebrate 1 year. For those that are not able to get one or do not want to pay $40, we will give that one away just to say thank you and to celebrate that 1 year. More info, more details coming on that soon. But thank you guys again so much.
Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers, and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.